Okay, get ready. Without further ado, let's get to today, man. I've been stoked about this.
It's today.
Ryan and I, it is today. Ryan and I got together, I don't know, about a month or 5 weeks, something, recently anyway. We were just talking about, recording and sound and drums and song and music and all that stuff. And we got talking about the snare drum, and he asked me if we'd done anything yet where we went over not necessarily tuning or miking specifically, but how just getting the right snare or how changing the snare affects the whole sound. I'm like, man, we hadn't done that. So I called him and said, hey, you want to do your idea? And so here we are, and that's going to be the topic of today. But before we get into that, why don't you give us a little background? You've had one hell of a career.
Thank you.
I mean, a lot of, dude, you've played with a ton of cool people.
Yeah.
Can you just give us, let us know what you've done?
Yeah, I mean, I've played with, my own band is the Push Stars. I've been playing with them for 20 years. But I got to record and tour with Matchbox 20.
And which album did you record on?
It was called Exile on Mainstream.
Which was a big album.
It was a big, it was like kind of like a comeback for them. They had been, they'd kind of been on hiatus for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It was a greatest hits record, but they added an EP to it. So I played on the 6 new songs that we recorded, and one of them, was a hit here, called How Far We've Come.
Yeah, that was huge, man.
Which was super fun to record, because that was actually me and the original drummer, Paul, playing together on that track. So it was like double. We were like Genesis.
Oh, nice.
just for that track. But we had the parts kind of together. It was fun. It was just cool. I'd never, double drummed in the studio before.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was fun, yeah.
But your career has been quite diverse. It's, that's like the pop rock thing, but there's a whole other...
Yeah, I mean, I've recorded, I made a record with Philip Sayce, who's a blues guitar player, virtuoso, incredible guy and player. Kind of just, I did a track with the Dixie Chicks, one with Robbie Williams, a lot of female artists, Pearl Aday, Anna Warker.
I mean, really, these are some... It's not only they're all pretty sizable artists, but they're all very different.
Yeah, totally.
So when you're approaching that, whether it's in the studio or live, there is no one size fits all, right?
Not necessarily, no.
So to tie it to what we're doing today, for instance, even though we're tracking something, at least for me, I don't think live is really that different. If I'm, going from, a blues thing to Matchbox 20, I'm probably gonna have some different gear for that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Although, for me, a lot of times I like to use big drums. I've always used big drums. I'll start with a 26-inch kick, which sometimes will freak people out when I'm going in to do some acoustic thing or some mellow. I'll show up with that and they're like, I don't think we're gonna use that. But then when we set up, I'm like, let's just try it.
Yeah, that thing, man, when I was back over here, I couldn't do the low end. That's just hitting me. It's like, oh my God, this is insane.
But I think I think that for me has become kind of my sound.
Right.
I've just always used bigger drums. Mm-hmm. So it sort of has created my own sound for that.
Okay, so let's go over real quick what we're gonna do. The snare, and chime in at any point. For me, the snare drum, you can get away with having the same set of toms. You can even kind of get away, if you have a pretty good versatile kick drum, you can get away with that for a while. Maybe having 2 kicks of different sizes would be nice. But snare drums is the one thing, it's like the vocal of the drum set.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And making sure you get the snare right can sometimes be tricky, or as we learned today, it's not. It's all just different flavors.
Yeah.
But it can also, you change the snare and it can change not only the entire sound of the overall drum set, but the whole
track.
The track, right?
The song, yeah.
So we're starting off with the old Ludwig, because that was Ryan and I's favorite at sound check. Although Hal liked it, but he voted for something else, which we're using. Then we're going to go to, which is 6x14, right?
Yeah, this is a 6x14. It might be 6.5, I forget. I think it's 6.5.
It's 6.5.
Yeah.
I think that's what this is. Yeah. And that is mahogany, right?
This is mahogany, yeah.
And then we have also a 6.5 Yamaha steel. We have a 6.5. This is a Gretsch chrome over brass. Then we're going to go a different direction, and we're going to go down to, is this a 5 or is this a...
I think that's a 5.
Yeah. A 5-inch Ludwig acrylite snare, which is aluminum, which is going to be considerably drier. Then we have 1 or 2 back here. Depending on time, we are going to wait till you hear this bad boy, this 8-inch deep Gretsch. But the goal here, they all sound good. We thought when it goes with this track, we're like, there's going to be one that sounds great, and there's going to be a couple that sound okay, and then a couple that just go, no, that's not right. And we were really wrong on that, because they all actually, every one of them could work in this track. They all give it a different vibe. So what we want to demonstrate how the snare drum just changes the overall vibe of the kit and the vibe of the song. We'll let you guys vote on what you like the best. You know, you tell us. We like this one. Hal was a huge fan of the Gretsch, but I will say every one of these suckers works. There is not one that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we'll do it 2 ways. We'll start with this one so we can focus on it. We'll play it out of context, and we'll play it with a few bars of this track so you can hear it in context, and then we'll just move through the snares. At the end, we'll pick our favorite, which you and I already kind of like that one. Unless we get some overwhelming response from you guys, we'll go back to this one. He's going to play the whole track, and we'll pull all the mics in. So you want to just play the groove, just drums only, and then we'll pull the track in?
And then do the track? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the groove that we're going to play with the track, drums only. Cool? Yeah, you've got Julian, yes. It says deep pocket right there.
Deep pocket, thank you.
Yeah, man, it sounded good.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pull in some track now. We'll run, I don't know, 8, 16 bars, somewhere like that.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Cool. I like this snare.
I like it too.
Because there's no muffling on this snare drum. What's the top head?
It's a CS Ambassador.
CS Ambassador?
Yeah.
With no muffling. So the thing that's interesting, I think, about muffling, and I'd be curious to see what you think about this too, Ryan, is a lot of the times you hear that ring on there when he's playing the drum, just playing the kit with no context. The ring is pretty prevalent. We hear it. It's not a bad ring, but there's a considerable amount of it. As soon as we get in the track, some of that ring gets eaten up right away, and you lose it. If we were to take that ring away before going in the track, the chances are that snare drum is going to get small and kind of disappear in context, right?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I think sometimes, like with snare drums, it's when you hear the vocal in the track, as long as it's the snare drum's not getting in the way of the vocal, you know. Sometimes, like, that's why engineers, I think, or producers sometimes, like, when they hear a drum that's real ringy, they get nervous. But like you said, when everything comes in, that ring oftentimes you want it there.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it gets eaten up real fast by guitars, keys, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time when I'm recording drums, I don't use much dampening at all. So, you know,
well, there's none on that. Is there anything on the toms? There's
a little bit on these toms, yeah, but only because they're so big. If they were smaller, I wouldn't have any dampening at all. Yeah. This doesn't always work either. Sometimes, you know, you'll try 10 snares and only one of them works.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oftentimes that's the way it goes.
I think the majority of the time it's that way. I'm really kind of shocked today that all of these could work.
It's just Magic Drum Room, I think is what it is.
See, that's what it is, man. It's Magic Drum Room. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm renaming it.
Thank you.
So there's more than one way to skin a cat with this whole tuning thing. You know, there's a lot of variables, and I don't want to open a huge can of worms right now. However, there are a few things I think you could take into consideration. You know, there's head choice. There's getting a head that works with the drum also is kind of important. And that takes a little bit of experimenting. I know heads are expensive, but you know, spending a few bucks and getting to know how your drum reacts with different heads, you'll learn where it doesn't do so good and where it does great. And that way you can, you know, get the head that gets the most versatility out of your drum. The other thing is muffling. There's, you know, we went from we're back to no muffling right now. We've had, you know, gaff tape with tape underneath it. There was one with a piece of a moon gel and something on it. There's a lot of different ways that you can dry up the drum. But I would really caution about drying, and this is just a starting point, but don't dry it up too much before you hear it in context.
Right.
Now, for you, what is your basic... I know you tune, you're like me, you tune it until it sounds good, whatever that is, whatever. But can you give us your basic thoughts on kind of how you tune?
Well, for snare drums, what I like the bottom head, I usually tune pretty tight. Keep, you know, is not like cranked all the way so there's no room, but higher than maybe like an average. You know, like it would like almost like how you would tune a piccolo or something.
Okay, all right.
The bottom head. And then the top head is usually somewhere in the mid-range. I don't go too high, I don't go too low. But it all depends on the track too. You know, when I hear the song and I'm recording the drums and I go in for the playback, I listen to the snare drum is the first thing I hear. Is this snare drum working? If it's too, is the tone of it, is the, you know, the note that it's ringing working with the song that we're working on, and I can especially tell like when the vocals are there. If there's a scratch vocal, like is it getting in the way of that? Is it too ringy? Is it too dead? Is it whatever it may be? And I sometimes I will just, if the tone sounds like it's right, I'll just adjust it a little bit. If it's too ringy, you know, dampen it a little bit or whatever. Right. But there are times where I go in, I'm like, oh, that's not the right drum. Let me try another one, you know.
Just right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Like,
instead
of messing, why tweak something if you know it's not?
Yeah,
right?
I'm like, no, that's not going to work.
But you would also mention something that I do every once in a while too, where you would detune.
Yeah, a couple lugs. Like sometimes I'll take these two closest lugs, or two or three, and I'll just detune them all the way, but I'll have the rest of them tuned kind of tight. And that sometimes will do the trick. That will get rid of the ring. Maybe if it's too ringy or too big sounding,
but not feel damp. Like
but not feel like it's like you have no life in the drum.
Right.
You know,
right.
Like that.
Yeah, like
where that one's like
a big gretsch.
You know, if you're playing like a slow ballad, or you need something that's like a big, you know, snare drum, that having it detuned like that and it's a slow tempo, not a problem.
Right.
But if you're trying to play an up tempo thing, and
even this with all the left hand is kind of tricky. Yeah.
But usually, you know, there's a lot of different tricks for snare drums. You know, like you said, it can be a can of worms.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to do it.
But I think just over time, you know, your ears kind of get trained on like what works and what doesn't. You just experiment. You know? There is no right or wrong way to do it.
Well, the one thing I noticed is you talked about, you did it with going back and listening to playback, as opposed to sitting in the room playing by yourself and making a decision there. You went in and then you assess the ring, the pitch of the ring, the tone, the dryness, whatever, and does it work with the music?
Totally.
Oh, my lab shut off again. All right, you know what? That's a sign. I'm going to take that, even though I don't believe that, I'm taking that as a sign to let Ryan play some more. You want to do this whole track?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull in the vocals.
Okay.
So we'll have, we can actually hear what this thing's supposed to sound like.
Okay, cool. Right on.